They killed. Give me Isaiah 14 and 21. They did the same thing to my people. So that you said that they put millions of my access. Yes, you said. Should a murderer go to jail for murdering? Absolutely. Should a thief go to jail when he steals? Absolutely. Should a robber pay back the money he robbed? Absolutely. So why shouldn't the white man pay for what he did? That's right. That's right. One day you'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog.
I'm in a hell of a hole, was never expected to grow. Just obstacles sat in the road, that a result of me selling my soul. The story I'm telling is cold, but yet it's what everyone knows. The white man's the devil is known. America was never our home. Only up in the captivity, save facility, hating, disfigure me. They claim that I'm lazy, be killing me. Maybe the slavery draining my energy. 400 years and counting. The trail of my tears is countless. Mere fact that I'm here is astounding, but I can't wait till this shit is surrounded. Ready to tangle my king and the angel, be ready to rap. Cracking the sky, nuclear missiles are making it official. I'm capturing every cracker surviving. Put them all in chains where they need to be. Slavery for me. And let the whole world see that with them in the cage and safer in the streets. Put the dog on a leash. Get resolved for the beast. 144, get the ruler show, we could all be at peace. As soon as the trumpets are sound, your kingdom we busting it down. The only way justice is found, the time for your judgment is now. You'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback. Look, ain't no remorse in my blood slump. It won't be no compromise. Now it's time to feed the worms. Watch his body turn to flies. I clutch iron while you trust the lies. The next Glock I buy gon' be Gen 5. I get it customized. And sending shots off like farewell. Praying payback come back around like a carousel. Still remember YAHANNA's words ringing in my head like bells. Said you in this body, you fit the Lord, fuck the cartel. Triangle choke, apply pressure to the game like I did Vondale. Payback's a bitch in a dress, she a bombshell. Revenge is dish served cold, I just hope they make an oxtail. Glock fresh out the box, I swear it got that new car smell. Made myself a target in the world of mad shooters. There was designed fire for our babies to pass through in the day of our king's reign. I'll be overzealous. They bought my jealous, I bought brand new parabellums. You'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback.
Hey, Shalom. Yabashima Shabakata. Yabashima Shabakatam. Yahawashama Alakan Basham Shai. Welcome to our Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and to all our social media viewers. Welcome to another episode of the Conflict Zone, where we You know, in times like these when conflicts are spiraling, eating up, after be blowing the trumpet, you know. And according to the topic now, we're still looking at Trump 2.0, 2.0, 2.0, which is the second um, term for Donald Trump. You know, he's eating out some tariffs. Canada, Mexico, China, you know, his major trading partners is hitting them with some tariffs. Now, what you'll find, interestingly, is that precursor to the major wars, you normally have a tariff war. Yeah, these tariff wars are normally a precursor to some major war. I mean, if you remember when the Ukraine war started to escalate, what America did, what America and the West did, was to hit Russia with not tariffs, but something worse than tariff. What do you call it? Blockade. In other words, what he did was to ban. They didn't use tariffs. They banned the trade altogether. Don't buy nothing from Russia. Don't sell nothing to Russia. Now, what is happening now is that the US is a little financial rut, which they can print the money to get out the rut, you know. But the all right, the amount that they need to service their debt annually is about $1 trillion. They can print the $1 trillion, but then they will have to suffer inflation, which is why you find that those of us who are pegged to the US dollar, our money keep getting less and less in value because the US dollar has they have to be because they are printing money to pay their debt. They have to be suffering inflation on their part, which is a repercussion on our part. So, in other words, they have to make their money value less, and then we have to reciprocate, right? We have to make the correction on our side. Now, the interesting thing is this: we are not, we in the Caribbean here, we are not able to, ditch the US dollar. All right, Trump taking a different turn now. Trump want to, rather than print the money, make the correction, earn the money. Aha. But that in itself is another problem. So if they keep on printing the money each year, the economy is going to eventually collapse. Now he's trying to earn the money, which is another threat to the economy. Earning the money by tariffs and hoping that these tariffs now is going to push some production locally within his country. But the problem is these bonds that they float internationally to finance wars. That's a major problem. So the problem is war. And there's a lot which they're not telling um, their citizens that is happening behind the scene. Now, in a way, the Democrats, to me, they're being a little hypocritical. Is it that they want a war because, you know, everything that is happening now is really a precursor to major wars. And what is happening now is as a result of what happened prior to Trump coming. But the truth and fact is the Most High is pushing them into war. So, you know, they're heading to a precipice which they cannot remove themselves from. How do they walk it back? Donald Trump is trying to walk it back, meaning prevent the war, but you know, his method of walking it back seems to be really going to walk into some wars. I mean, you hear Canada squealing now that America is trying to destroy their economy. I don't know. The thing is, you know, if I am in the rut, then I have to make the necessary maneuvers to get out. If by me getting out you are going to squeal, then it means that you are part of my problem. It could mean that. So is it that Canada is a part of the problem, the America's problem? Why they have to be squealing like that? They are one of the major trading partner with zero tariff. Then Mexico and I think China. So America is trying to, you know, make some correction, but at the same time, when you read in Revelation describe a scenario with Babylon, which, you know, it kind of lead back to the same thing, trade war, or trade, if you want to say it, put it that way, right? When you look at Revelation chapter 18, starting from 8, if you read all right, verse 11, 18 and 11. All right, let's start from 8 and come down to the verse 8. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, meaning come quickly, dirt. And this dirt here, I think it is a mourning for destruction. Let me check it. I don't remember. What does DEARTH? All right, this dirt is a scarcity that makes clear, specifically famine. Right. It's a lamentation for destruction. Famine, inadequate supply. So dirt is a scarcity or lack of something. There is a dearth of evidence. All right. So in the archaic meaning, meaning the old time meaning, which, you know, the Bible was written 2,000 years ago. So most likely it's the old time meaning for the word dirt we should be using. So the archaic meaning is a situation where food is in short supply. Now, look at that. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, meaning her plagues will come quickly. Dearth, which is food gets scarce, mourning, famine, food, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord who judgeth her. So when you see these things start happening, just know that is the Most High's judgment. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her, meaning shall cry for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. Because these kings of the earth, they, living deliciously with her. China. China would not be where they are today if it wasn't for America's marketing. Probably 80% of what China makes is sold in America. All them shiploads of sneakers that goes into America. Once buy them, once buy some sneakers. Shipload of iron. Like it tells you in this scripture what and what is sold to them. Verse 10 now says, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. Zelensky, the Ukrainian president had told Donald Trump, you will see when other when people start to come on the shore. That will be interesting to see other nations invading America. America has never been invaded by any foreign nation, which is why they are so prosperous. Um, what's the other verse? 11. Verse 11 now. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buy their merchandise anymore. So America is this big consumer that every single country in the earth on this earth that produce goods to be export to America. Jamaica and the Caribbean export a whole lot to America. Why? Because America doesn't have to, and the base of this is what put her in the mess that she's in. They don't have to earn foreign exchange. We have to earn foreign exchange. How does America get foreign exchange? Same US dollar. How they get it? Let us print it. Think of you, well, nowadays they have something that you can actually pull something from thin air. You have a mechanism which you can pull water from the air, but water is already in the air. So what America does is to get money from thin air, basically. So they need $1 trillion, then just print it. And I think they suffer like a 10% inflation for doing that, something like that. So, but after a while, it must affect you. You have, like, for instance, Jamaica. Jamaica now have our budget this year, 1 point something trillion dollars. So, in other words, you just end up with this huge figure or huge amount of money to buy the same amount of goods. Or it's the same amount of goods. Back in the days, 20 years ago, one loaf of bread cost, let's see, 2000, the year 2000. A loaf of bread was less than, let's say, for argument's sake, 200 and something dollars. Today, a loaf of bread is 500, almost $600. All right. if you go back to say 25 years ago, that's year 2000, or 30 years ago, a loaf of bread was probably about $10, you know. Why is it that you have to pay $600 for that same loaf of bread and not $10? So in other words, and I'm sure a loaf of bread now costs more than $510. So it means you're finding $500 more to buy that one loaf of bread. What's that for? But you know what I find interesting? The way we look at the scriptures and the Bible and say it is, outdated and, it's a long time thing that. But back in those days, we had control inflation. We had control inflation. The same value the money had when we were going in the land, how much shekel of silver. Silver is the money. Silver is money, you know. Money is supposed to be silver. Right. So the same value it had, because when you read the scripture and they tell you, when you commit certain trespass and you're supposed to pay a certain amount of weight of silver to the temple, almost 3,000 years after when Christ came, the value was still the same. All the charges were still the same. There was no increase in charge because there was zero inflation. But who start coming with the inflation now? Same set of man who Christ had kicked out the temple, the money changers. Just like the scripture tell you, they were money changers. The people would come from all over the world with their money, and the money changer would change their money to the money that is used in Jerusalem so that they can spend locally. The same today. If I go to America, I can't spend Jamaican dollar in America. I have to convert it to US dollar. And when you come from US into Jamaica, you convert that US dollar to Jamaican dollar. Now, each time that you make the conversion, you lose some of the value. Yeah. So eventually it leads to inflation. All right. So the scripture is telling you that, the merchants in Revelation 18 and 11, the merchant of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buy their merchandise anymore. So every single country would depend on merchandising, selling. Europe and all them places, they sell to America. And by selling to America, that's how they are able to build their economy. All right, let's look at some other, what is happening now with the Trump thing there. Trump tariff. All right, tariffs before World War II. So we can't find that. Just before World War II, after World War One, America went through that protectionism period. So, share audio. There's more audio on this. Protectionism in the interwar period. This is an article from Office of the Historian, Department of State, United States of America. So this article that I'm reading comes from the American government. It's on the internet. Milestone 1921 to 1936. Protectionism in the interwar period. Introduction. In the decade after the end of the First World War, the United States continued to embrace the high tariffs that had characterized its trade policy since the Civil War. These were enacted in part to appease domestic constituencies. Same thing Trump trying to do now. Put these tariffs to appease the local constituencies, the local builders and so on, local manufacturers, I should say. But ultimately, they serve to hinder international economic cooperation and trade in the late 1920s and early 1930s. So they use these protectionism technique of tariff to control or to shield their local um, market and manufacturers because they become now, what's the word they want? Vulnerable. So they have to protect them. It's like, think of you having a baby. The baby have anything, human, anything. You have to take them through that protection period. But the same thing with some of the businesses. You can start a business and you're competing with some other bigger business from another country who can, you know, supply goods, that same goods you're making in your country for a period of time at what you probably at a loss, or you can say break even. But when you just manufacture, you just come in on the scene, you have to sell your goods to make a profit because you're brand new, you can't afford, start make money yet, you can't afford to sell at break even unless you did have some money stack up, which if you're new and you can't make a money, it probably don't even make sense because what you're going to eat out the little money that you already have saved. So it has its purpose. The protectionism through tariffs have its purpose. But this is what they are saying happening in the long run now. Ultimately, they serve to hinder international economic cooperation and trade because you hear what Canada start to squeal now and say America trying to destroy their economy. China not start bawling, but China is grumbling. Mexico is grumbling. But the one who come outright and speak is Canada. So, we're not trying to destroy the economy. Let's read on. This is Congressman Oscar Underwood, U.S. tariff through the 1920s. But like he did this research, probably. High tariffs were a means not only of protecting infant industries, there you have it. Just like I said, like a little baby, you have to protect it. So they use high tariff to protect their baby industries. But of generating revenue, so it's not only to protect the baby industry, but to generate revenue for the federal government. In Jamaica's case and the Caribbean case, it generates money revenue for the government. They were also a mainstay of the Republican Party, which dominated the Washington political scene after the Civil War. So, history repeating itself. Republican Party in power again, tariff comeback. After the Democrats who supported freer trade, like Biden, captured Congress and the White House in the election of 1910 and 12, the stage was set for a change in tariff policy with the 1930 Underwood-Simmons tariff. The United States broke with its tradition of protectionism, enacting legislation that lowered tariffs. The Democrats did that. And also instituted an income tax. Right. The reversion of Congress to Republican control, to Republican control during the First World War and the 1920 election of Republican Warren Harding to the presidency signal an end to the experiment. So, they had an experiment to say what would happen. Experiment with lower tariff to provide protection for American farmers whose wartime market in Europe were disappearing with the recovery of European agricultural production as well as US industries that had been stimulated by the war. Congress passed the Temporary Emergency Tariff Act in 1921, followed by a year later by the Fordney-Macumber Tariff Act of 1922. The Fordney-Macumber Tariff Act raised tariff above the level set in 1913. Just like what Trump is doing. Trump going up to 25%, which is, we have heard of that in a very long time. It also authorized the president to raise or lower a given tariff rate by 50% in order to even out foreign and domestic production costs. One Right, so I'm trying to even out foreign and domestic costs, production costs. One unintended consequences of the Fordney-Macumber tariff was that it made it more difficult for European nations to export to the United States and so earn dollars to service their war debts. Hmm. Hmm. So Trump not look Europe with tariff yet, but it's gonna happen because him start threatening them. First thing him said, the EU was made to, what's the word they use? Basically to challenge the American economy. Right. So they need to earn money to service their war debt, but America blockade them so they can through tariffs, so they cannot, sell their goods to earn some US dollar to service their war debt. At the end of the day, the bankers are the one who smile. The banker is the one who laugh. Despite the Fordney-Macumber tariff, the plight of the American farmer continued. The wartime expansion of non-European agricultural production had led, with the recovery of European producers, to overproduction during the 1920s. This in turn had led to declining farm prices during the second half of the decade. During the 1928 election campaign, Republican presidential candidate Herbert Hoover pledged to help the beleaguered farmer by, among other things, raising tariff level on agricultural products. They're doing that to Mexico. But once the tariff schedule revision process got started, it proved impossible to stop. You hear that? So Trump better mind him start something that he won't be able to stop. Calls for increased protection flooded in from industrial sector, special interest group, and soon a bill meant to provide relief for farmers became a means to raise tariff in all sectors of the economy. So when they say that these tariffs bring back the agriculture sector, everybody wants to do it now. The steel manufacturers, metals, everybody else wants to do it. When the dust had settled, Congress had produced a piece of legislation, the Tariff Act of 1930, more commonly known as the Smooth Hawley Tariff. Smooth Hawley Tariff, that entrenched the protectionism of the Fordney-Macumber Tariff. Scholars disagree over the extent of protection actually afforded by the Smooth Tariff. They also differ over the issue of whether the tariff provoked a wave of foreign retaliation that plunged the world deeper into the Great Depression. What is certain, however, is that Smooth Hawley did nothing to foster cooperation among nations in either the economic or political realm during a perilous era in international relations. It quickly became a symbol of the beggar thy neighbor policy of the 1930s. Such policies, which were adopted by many countries during this time, contributed to a dramatic contraction of international trade. So you find ships not going out so much because the tariffs. Just like it said in Revelation, no man buy their merchants anymore because Babylon not there to buy it. So you see here now it happened here. They didn't do much to foster international trade. So a drastic contraction of international trade. For example, hey, Shalom, sir. YAHANNA Shai Brakatah.
Yeah, Shalom.
You look like me wake you up, man. That's good.
Eh?
You look like I woke you up. That is good.
Nah. At that time, that is the time difference. It done almost close to midnight here, and it's about 20 past 11 right now. So all the time difference.
Yeah, trying to go through the things so I can close off in time. Yeah, so I did a little research on the tariffs to find that before World War II, America had the same tariff thing. Well, they had it to recover from World War One, but it led to World War II. So Trump now is using it to prevent an economic collapse, but it could lead to the economic collapse.
Right now, he in the right spirit. He in the right spirit. And especially like how, broadcasting it over the air. So again, it proves that everything that, you know, the ISUPK and the Commandant General YAHANNA has been bringing out, again, World War III, we can now imagine this coming out of the mouth, I would say, out of the oppressor, and especially saying down in that office, where, as we just tell brothers and sisters, is that mark at the bees at 666, is 666 of them. As they say, them have a number. It's just like this, they have figure. They sit down and they know controlling and how their school place, you know, they decide how it runs. And when them talking, it's like the Lord showing black people something. All they listen to, to the men who the Lord put in charge, which is the ISUPK under Commanding General. And listen to these black men because they're not saying, you know, nothing different from what recorded inside of these records we're reading about. So now, as you say, articles like this, we're pulling up. It's some that, brothers already went through the research and already went through the history. And this is why, we can tell brothers, hey, that, as you say, that the time had them cargo slave ships came across here, it already prophesied inside Deuteronomy chapter 20, that this is where we will end up because I'm being disobedient. But the Most High God always had a way back for we. And this is why, we always had righteous black and always had prophets in the earth, always had a remnant to do what to bring all this truth. And this is where, as you say, platform like this is where the truth will always come out. Because now you ain't talking, you ain't hiding nothing like, as you say, where the as you say, the school curriculum go high. Things like this should have already been known. But because again, because of how they set up the structure, how they set up the business, it's like, hey, if you really want to know truth or really understand truth, you gotta research. And I will say that is the downfall, I will say, our religious leaders, because now they have all the resources necessary to bring the truth out, but again, they only seek their own pocket, their own gain. And this is why, the truth in the, I will say, the Lord, when the Lord established the truth, it will always.
So you got frozen.
And then I kind of jumping in between there.
Yeah. When I read this, it's an historical. This is something published by the American government, Office of the Historian, Department of State, United States of America. And they give you the milestone, the timeline, 1921 to 1936. Protectionism in the interwar period. And you see that same protectionist approach coming now. Scholars disagree over the extent of protection actually afforded by the Smoot-Hawley tariff. They also differ over the issue of whether the tariff provoked a wave of foreign retaliation that plunged the world deeper into the Great Depression. So the other countries now, they didn't really want to cooperate with America on the tariff thing. Just like over here, Canada say, I try to mash up my economy. I tariff everything where you sell to me. And Mexico probably will do the same. We don't hear much from China yet. But they are going through a phase which they are not admitting that they are going through the phase so much. And these countries don't care. You hit me, I'm going to hit you back. So it was the same thing back then, and it plunged the world deeper into the Great Depression. What is certain, however, is that Smoot Hawley did nothing to foster cooperation among nations in either the economic or political realm during a perilous era in international relations. So they didn't approach other nations and, let them know what's going on and blah, blah, blah. There was nothing to foster relation. They just hit with tariff. Like how Trump come in and say, 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico. Started yesterday. It quickly became a symbol of the beggar thy neighbor. Like beg thy neighbor. Policies of the 1930s. Such policies, which were adopted by many countries during this time, contributed to a drastic contraction of international trade. You would say contraction of international trade. For example, US imports from Europe declined from 1929 high of 1.334 million to just 300 and this was billion. This was supposed to be 1.334. That should be billion. To just 390 million in 1932, while the US export to Europe fell from 2,344 million in 1921 to 784 million. This should be billion in 1932. Overall, world trade declined by some 66% between 1929 and 1934. All right, so when I go back to Revelation, 18, and you read this part here that says, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buy their merchandise anymore. Back then, before World War II, world trade, international trade shrunk by 66%. That is more than 50%, And they are describing, the Bible describes something similar that is going to befall Babylon. That is going to happen when Babylon's falling. But what would be the difference between then and now? All right. You go up to verse, say, 4. See in Revelation 18, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sin, and that ye receive not of her plague. But then, before World War II, when you have that Great Depression, the truth wasn't born yet. So there's no way we could have answered this call, come out of her, my people. We couldn't answer that call. So the Great Depression happened, and the Most High walk it back. Now it is setting up to happen again. What is the difference now? The truth is here. So we now are able to come out of her, that we are not partakers of her plagues, partakers of her sin, and that we don't receive her plagues. That's a big difference now, no?
Right.
So they are gearing up for the same thing. All right. Let me see if I need to read more from this, because I have some more that I want to read. Right. We go into what is happening between Trump triggers trade war price hike with tariffs on Canada, China, and Mexico. All right, let's read this one. All right, this one. I might have to stop the sharing and come back in it. Share screen. Bam, bam. Okay.
U.S. President Donald Trump's new 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada took effect on Tuesday, along with a doubling of duties on Chinese goods to 20%.
Salaki, sir, you hearing it?
Yeah, come in place.
He said that all three countries had failed to do enough to stop fentanyl from entering the U.S. The trade wars could slam economic growth and lift prices for Americans still hurting from years of high inflation. Canada swiftly retaliated. Here's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Canada will be implementing 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods, starting with tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods immediately, and tariffs on the remaining $125 billion of American products in 21 days' time. Now, it's not in...
All right, so you see what is about to trigger now is what we call a trade war between the two of them. The same thing we're reading about that happening in 1920 to 1930 something, you know, prior to the World War II. Yes, it tell you. The U.S. import from Europe declined from 1.334 1 billion, that is 1,334 million to just 390 million. So it lose $1 billion in trade. And the same thing happened with Europe. So the whole thing declined by 66%. Understand? So because the whole thing declined by 66% now, what you have now is then a depression. So this is what is gearing up to happen again. So it's gearing up to happen now from, let me see, something. It's gearing up to happen now from the perspective of what do you call them? Canada and Mexico. But Trudeau is Canada. So the Canadian is really, really preparing to go all out in a trade war.
Might happen. Agree with the Wall Street Journal. But Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum.
So you see what is happening. They recognize that they are doing foolishness, but they can't stop. So this is how you know that is the Most High, that is the Lord pushing them into it. You know. They know that they are doing folly, but they can't stop.
Sheinbaum said she would unveil her response this weekend.
Por ello, hemos decidido responder.
Therefore, we have decided to respond with tariff and non-tariff measures that I will announce in a public square next Sunday. It is by no means our purpose to start an economic or trade confrontation, which unfortunately and regrettably is the opposite of what we should be doing. That is, integrating our economies more to strengthen our region.
China announced additional tariffs of 10 to 15% on certain U.S. imports from March 10th, and a series of new export restrictions for designated U.S. entities. Later, it said it had raised complaints about the new measures with the World Trade Organization. The tariffs are already sparking some U.S. price increases on goods, running counter to Trump's election vow to bring down living costs for Americans. The Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta's GDP Now model showed a stunning shift to a 2.8% U.S. GDP contraction in the first quarter, from a 2.3% estimated growth last week.
All right. So this one easier to go through. It was a video. Right? So you see, these are things which they know why this is stupidness we're doing. It's just like our people, many of them know that the drugs they are taking is destroying them, but they can't stop. Many of them knowing that this life that I'm living is going to destroy me, but they can't stop. Why? The most are pushing them to it.
Right.
Just remember that the Lord make peace, and remember that scripture that the Lord make peace and He make war. I do all things.
Yeah.
You can find that. You think you can find it?
Yeah. Check it out too. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Let me see if we can. I make peace. I think it's somewhere in Proverbs, Isaiah. Right. I form the light and I create darkness. Right. I make peace and I create evil. Isaiah 45:7. Isaiah 45:7.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 45 and verse 7. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things.
Right. I, the Lord, do all these things. So, you're Trudeau telling Trump that this is dumb, but he can't turn back. Why? Because the Most High is pushing them to it. They have been pushed into this trade war by the Most High. And the trade war is generally a precursor to wartime. All right, the next thing we want to read now before we close off is the implications on the impact on the Caribbean. I'm going to send you that link, sir. I'll just post it up here. Put it here, I'll send you the link.
Look at post stuff.
U.S. tariff war. All right, so this one is from Caribbean Trade Law and Development. U.S. tariff wars. What possible impact for the Caribbean? This is a recent document by Alicia Nichols. They are international trade. She's an international trade analyst for the Caribbean. All right. You're going to read or should I read?
Kind of blurry.
Not here.
It's what they want to read from.
Right here. What a time to be an international trade analyst.
What a time to be an international trade analyst. That was my first thought after reading the latest memorandum dated February 1st, 2025, announcing sweeping tariffs on Americans' three biggest trading partners, Canada, Mexico, and China, will know for using tariffs as a tool for geopolitical ends. President Donald J. Trump is justifying these latest measures as part of a national emergency he declared against illegal immigrants and drug trafficking under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, EEPA, right? This act signed,
IEEP.
yeah,
I right. IEEPA.
IEEPA. This act, signed in 1977, allows the President broad powers to regulate commerce after declaring a national emergency.
All right. So this is it now. In in need the tariff to bring the economy back, But what allows him to put those tariffs on the goods? There's no law. But once him declare a national emergency, that is immigrants and fentanyl, then under that act, which is a 1977 act, it allows him to regulate commerce after I make that declaration. So this is why now him come up with this thing now, him going after immigrants and problem at the border with fentanyl, because he need that money from the tariff to make the corrections in the economy, which previous administrations had caused their economy to run in this great debt. You see how the politics go?
Mm-hmm. and again, this is business, and it in our business perspective, eh, just like how data think, just like how that business think, you only see yourself. All this big talk about, to build the economy, to build whatever, is really to full the pocket. That is where businessmen, as you say, especially all processes, things like because now, as you say, the greed, the lust, the desire, is always to seek their own pleasure. So wherever happen to, or whoever back to decide or the bill offer, that is just where. So now all this thing was song, as I say, song in well, you know, worded, well, as you say, just like you're writing a statement or you're having a sentence in every paragraph, everything worded, to the T and to the dot, how they say. But really and truly, this is just them, you know, wanting to continue to build off as you say, blacks, Latinos, and anything coming down out of this, who in the field? They always say the man to the oldest field, the man to the bottom, just feel it. And in the
Yeah,
bottom
yeah.
to the lowest, as you say, the low class or the low state. Easy one lowest field because now he is the one who holding up, as we say, that weight. Them ain't holding no weight. Them still eating and drinking. Them still, as you say, knocking a glass, drinking the finest wine. What you doing? You out on the grind. 9 to 5. So that.
Yes, I mean, and that's how they make sure that we always be at the bottom, so that we become the scapegoat. Become the scapegoat at all times. All right, we can pick up from here again. This move will, of course, hurt those countries. Hello?
Yes, okay. Oh, I read it from this part, as you say.
Right.
This move will, of course, hurt those countries, right, affecting manufacturers and also jobs. But trade 101 is that tariff also mainly hurt consumers in the country imposing them. Right? The US, in this case, billions of dollars in trade occurs among USMCA, right, countries each year, with tightly in, in, interweave, right, interweaving supply chains, especially in the automobile, agriculture, textiles, and other industries. Indeed, U.S. goods and services trade, right, USMCA, totaled an estimated 1.8 trillion in 2022, according to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, right, USTR. This means that many of the goods on American shelves come from these countries or were made with inputs sourced from these countries. Therefore, American manufacturers will pay higher costs or raw materials and intermediate goods sourced from these countries, and higher businesses costs, which they will likely pass on to the consumers. The end result is that the American shoppers and businesses will pay higher prices for everyday goods. An ironic state and affair given higher prices for everyday goods. An ironic state of affair given that reducing these costs was said to be one of the reasons the American public voted for President Trump.
Right. Now, that is the result of what is going to happen. That's the result of the tariff. That is what is going to happen. All right. So Trudeau announced that. We'll go down to where the impact on the Caribbean now. They'll hit Caribbean consumers too, right down here. This is the part that we are concerned with in the Caribbean. How is it going to affect us?
Caribbean manufacturers, which depends on U.S. inputs, will likely face higher prices and business costs, while we end consumers might spend more for American-made food, cars, electronics, and the like. However, right, so just that first part alone, again, being, let me say, in we times, we see these things already happening. So now, just like I think you're saying it earlier on in the first part of the class now, we are show, we are saying with the cost of bread now, and from $10 to 500, you know, this is something that we already, let me say we time. Imagine for, let me say those at that time where we'd say that the value of the dollar now, right? It 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 blew up so fast. It might look like, hey, that it was already it so fast in so short time. But this
Mm-hmm.
is something that was already happening, being the time, let me say, us thinking that, that we independent, that we being free. From the time they already remove, let me say, the physical change from of us, them already know that they already had us changing in our minds. Because now we still were something asset to them. We still were slaves unto them. And in order for their economy to continue to thrive, this is how it will build. No problem. I'll take it off my hand. But here we will do. No, we had to do. We had to save 10 times as much more than, you having it and I feeding it. So now, again, this is something that, as I say, that reminder to us, even when, as you say, as I read this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It said there are ways in which we could seek, right, to combat this to the best that we can. Caribbean manufacturers, right, should, to extent possible, continue to expose alternative supply, right? To the extent possible, continue to explore alternative suppliers to mitigate against these possible price hikes. The state of affairs also make the case, right, for more inter-Caribbean sourcing. After all, instead sourcing so much of our fresh fruits from Florida, we consider us to be sourcing these from within a. After when I read these things, you really had a laugh. You really had a laugh. Because now it is like this. The place, as you say, let me say with the Caribbean, we don't have, let me say, no certain countries, as I say, it depends on where you are, but more or less like we don't have no really lockdown on, let me say, access towards a lot of things, right? It's like in my backyard, I can plant something, right? Unlike, you know, way in America, you can't just plant any and anything in your backyard. Like how we would say we have a kitchen yard. It, with them comes restrictions and stipulations, and you gotta get paperwork before you do this, before you do that. In the Caribbean, down there, you could go anywhere, and but it depends on where it is, and you could still feel. And now they be hearing this, it goes to show now where the leaders who's supposed to be running or looking over this space, it goes to show that if them do present themselves to be just like, let me say, the had that piece look of our oppressor and to feel like they let me say in that seat, none of this wouldn't be, as you say, we wouldn't even have to be reading these articles, reading an article like this for impact on the Caribbean. Because now we should have already been looking to ourselves, looking just like how, let me say, let me use the example Canada,
Mm-hmm.
say that country, the Caribbean, the Caribbean, this CARICOM thing, this should have already be, as I say, the Caribbean, not everybody with different names. Why I think they would always win within the Caribbean because we separated. and we don't even understand that, hey, we supposed to be one. We supposed to be one. So trade and everything running through this Caribbean, it's supposed to. Damn near we don't even have shouldn't even have a peak to go to one another. It's like how you have a pass to go. Let me say we should have just be moving from island to island. It shouldn't even have a fare. It shouldn't even have a fare because they already know that having us divided in our mind, they already will. They have nothing else. They do have nothing else.
Yeah, because if we are divided, so because why should we require fruit and vegetable from Florida? And you have big empty farms in Jamaica.
Fruits going 365 days a year, a day in the year. Fruits growing through the Caribbean. Damn it, like a short season for everything. We always see them in the Caribbean, especially fruits. So that in itself, again, it goes to show how, as you say, they already have, as you say, the Caribbean and a whole where they already want it.
Mm-hmm.
Only, as you say, men in the truth, righteous black men in the truth, could really see this. And again, don't feel that, as you say, the politicians and then what they're doing is a loss lying in them. The desire for power lying in them.
Right. I mean, because they know that you're going there for 4 years and you might not go back. So they don't do no long-term planning. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever planning they do, they must be able to achieve it by the time the next election come around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is
You know
why
what
we
you can,
have long-term
you know, it's like it. You know what you can do in 4 years, especially farming wise.
Yes, but they don't look at it that way. All right.
Because why?
Most time you farm and you get some produce, so you use those produce as raw material, either for canning or to make something else. Now, the end product is what they look at, you know. So if I'm going to make orange juice, rather than plant up 100 acres of orange, I go somewhere in Florida and I buy orange concentrate and ship it back to Jamaica and mix it and make orange juice. That is what we have been doing rather than planting our own orange.
That is why I say this from the get go. The Caribbean, we that way talking about it. I talking about every island in the Caribbean. We shouldn't even be looking. So now it already designated. It's like all the desert, all the look at Florida. Now what we looking at now? I would say it's like that China island. One of them island could be a Florida. They're saying something. We know yeah that we had that produce. We as they say yeah acres are fields are this. And who tries to help people in Caribbean? So again, because again, like
Yeah,
this
improper
place,
planning.
mm-hmm. And again, that was say 4 years. You know how much you can do in 4 years. Let me just think 4 years, and we thinking Caribbean, we thinking Jamaica, we thinking Trinidad, we thinking Barbados, we thinking Grenada, we thinking how you say the windward, the leeward, we thinking Bahamas, we thinking the Caribbean, we thinking that people that was your reference to Canada. as you say, these as you say, these certain places, are big landmass. Our landmass is the Caribbean. Why should we, as I say, so they come up with the CARICOM. Now we know what to do. Now to understand the whole thing, as I say, trade or whatever. Now they start to introduce, as I say, their way, their policies. And again, this is why the truth, brothers and sisters, really need to, as I say, to really pay attention to what's going on and stop, as I say, now more than ever. I say, find yourself in them seats and then Islam. So that time I read up on it.
Yeah, I mean, all right, let me finish this one and then we'll close off with a scripture. This is the last paragraph now. Final thoughts.
You go ahead and answer the question.
Huh?
I say you go ahead now because the light kind of if you could read it, Bible question.
Okay.
Come on your
Final thoughts. Trump's tariff may be aimed at Canada, Mexico, and China, but the ripple effect will be felt far beyond in the possible form of higher prices and business costs, supply chain distribution, and economic uncertainty. Our jobs as trade analysts have never been more important as we help the Caribbean businesses and government. We advise to stay informed and ready to adapt in an increasingly unpredictable global trade landscape. And indeed, that is what it has becoming now, very unpredictable. But Trump hitting this fentanyl and what you call it, immigration. Which way, those are not the real problem. But they can't jump up and say, I'm going to increase tariff because we need money to pay to service our debt and them things. You can't do that. But there's a law which we read about now, 1977 law. Once him said that, then he's able to implement tariffs and other things and get some more money. But that is one side of the coin. What about when these other countries start to do the same thing back to you now? All right, Joel, we're going to close now with Joel chapter 2, verse 1 and 2. All right, book of Joel chapter 2 and verse 1. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand. Right. Like I said, the regular man is going to look at what is happening and say, but things like these happen already, man. Yes, but the difference now is the truth is being born. So the Most High is now showing you that when these things happen and the truth is around, this is the time we're going to blow the trumpet. That is what since 1969 ISUPK has been doing.
Right.
There have been a Great Depression since then. Nope. The Revelation tell you about the three woes. Woe. World War One, World War Two, World War Three. Right in between World War One and Two, that's when they had the Great Depression. But the Most High did not wrap things up then. It take you all the way, almost 100 years later. Verse 2. A day of darkness and of gloominess. Just like it's in Revelation, famine and so on and so forth. A day of clouds and of thick darkness. as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong, there hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. So you see what is that going to happen now? Never happened before, and it will never happen again. Because we know that this time the Most High is going to close things with a lake of fire. It's the same like when you see fire burn California. Yeah, fire burn California, and the fire give you hurricane wind. Category 4 hurricane wind. Hello, that's some serious things that you know, man.
That's serious, I mean.
Some serious fire that you know, man. Gale force wind within the fire. Yeah. All right, closing remarks.
Right, not much again. Here, Passover feast, April 12th, Atlanta, Georgia is the first study. Right, again, Peace of Purim, right, March 13th and 14th, Thursday, March 13th, Friday, March 14th. Find yourself in these seats. Come and bring bread with your brother. Right, so that is needed.
And not 13 and 14 and 14 and 15.
Not 13 and 14. I think 13 and 14.
14 and
Thursday
15.
and Friday and Thursday and Friday. Friday, Thursday, 15th.
I don't know what it is, but see, we have it up here on the screen, 14th and 15th day. Remember that? What is that?
You check it out and see.
Purim.
Thursday,
Oh, it's the 14th and 15th day of the last month.
Yeah.
But that now fall on March 13th and 14th. March 14th.
Yeah.
You're right. So it's the 14th and 15th day of the last month.
Like 12, like every same book I have.
For the last month now fall in March.
That is March 15th, Friday, Thursday, March 15th, and Friday, March 14th.
March 14th. Sundown March 13th, right? And remember to pay your tithes. And remember to like, subscribe, and share our videos. All right? So, we say, we're chipping out. Until next week, we're going to tell you Shalom.
Yeah, Shalom.
Yabashima Shabakata.
Yabashimata.
All right. Next week again, we'll talk more about Trump because I'm sure I'm going to do something more. Because we don't even talk about him and Zelensky yet. All right, Shalom, sir. Yabashim Shukata.
Yes, Shalom. Yabashimata.